we brought you the story of Isidore Newman High School, a prep school in the affluent uptown district of New Orleans. Today, the exact opposite. Stephen Brunt takes us on a journey to the 9th Ward, where a community destroyed by Hurricane Katrina is striving to find hope through football.
This was George Washington Carver High School, before the storm. The lower 9th Ward and the Desire neighborhoods of New Orleans were poor, dangerous places even then. But they were also living, breathing communities. And the traditionally African-American high school, and especially its football teams, were a focus of identity and a point of pride.
This area is like the New Orleans Saints is to the city of New Orleans. I mean, Carver High School, that's how it is to the 9th Ward housing community.
Everybody wanted to go to Carver. And Carver was one of the best schools in Louisiana, one of the biggest schools in the country.
This school means so much to this community. It means so much to people that attended here in the 50s and 60s and 70s.
It was the center of our social life. We met our wives here, our girlfriends that became our wives. It was a part of our social life and our community life.
And then, Katrina.
This is not a test.
We are still just beginning to learn the extent of the depth and the damage
is catastrophic. A major hurricane that is in the Gulf of Mexico.
Disaster in U.S. history.
The lower 9th and Desire took the worst of it.
A lot of violence over resources and water.
It changed a lot because there was a lot of separation with me, my father, my brother. Went to Florida, Atlanta, and my last destination was Tennessee. Then we came back together once we came back home.
The old Carver High School was damaged beyond repair and eventually torn down. The remaining students from a largely depopulated neighborhood were sent here to a new temporary school consisting of portable classrooms barricaded behind locked wire fences. That was more than 6 years ago. They're still here. They come from desperately poor circumstances. They arrive in the morning hungry. They leave at night to rejoin shattered families, or no families at all. They live in the most dangerous part of what is statistically the most dangerous city in the United States. Maybe there's a tougher place to grow up in North America in 2013, but it's hard to imagine where that might be.
New Orleans isn't a violent place. The people in New Orleans are violent.
Every time you pick up the newspaper and look at the news, one of our young kids had got shot.
My brother, his friends, when they were young, all his friends are dead.
In the weeks and months following Hurricane Katrina, aid arrived in a variety of forms, and people with no previous connection to New Orleans came to help. One of them was Brian Bordanic. He was a northerner who knew almost nothing about the city. He wasn't trained to be a teacher. He wasn't a football coach either, but they needed him at the new temporary Carver High School to teach, to coach, and eventually to become the athletic director, all by default.
It was an interesting dynamic to be kind of thrust into an environment where you're like, wow, like I wound up at probably one of the more historic high schools in the country, right? And have no experience teaching, and I'm a year and a half older than my kids, so this will be a very interesting experience.
Against all odds, the Carver football program survived in a city where high school football is a very serious and often very well-funded business.
We're at a humongous disadvantage. We compete against schools that have facilities that would rival those of the New Orleans Saints.
We didn't have, like, anything. Like, not enough footballs, not enough mouthpiece, like, nothing.
We've had days where we may have had a game at 7 at night, and one of the coaches will go out and buy food for the entire team, and just to make sure the kids have a meal before they go out on the field to play.
It's not about what we want, it's about what we have and what we have to work with to get to what we want to be.
Their makeshift practice facility has only bare bones amenities. Their weight room is comprised of damaged equipment that washed up following the storm. They have no home field advantage because they have no home field. But still, football plays a vital role at the school. It is a distraction from the dangers of life in the 9th Ward. It is a refuge, and it is an escape.
Football was like a saving grace to me.
It stopped me from getting in trouble in the streets.
It's a great city, but you know, we got a lot of killing, and for sports, I feel like it's the way to get out of New Orleans and, you know, see a better place.
I had kids and still have kids that just don't want to leave the school. Some kids just rather stay here than to go home because they know what the living conditions are.
That became this huge driver and kind of switch in my mind, which is like, I don't actually care if we play football or basketball or any of those things. Like, if we can keep the kids here doing something during that time, inevitably we're going to see the crime rate and the murder rate drop.
It was Bordanik who first dreamed a crazy dream. What if they build a football stadium at Carver? What would that mean for the school, for the students, for the community? And so the 9th Ward Field of Dreams project was born. The first donations were $2 and $3 checks from the students' parents, but then others got on board. The National Football League pledged $200,000, and what seemed impossible is now on the verge of becoming real.
You know, your environment, no matter how good or how bad, eventually becomes normal to you. That's the goal, is that this becomes like the new normal for people.
Building a football stadium there may seem preposterous when plans to replace the temporary classrooms are still on the drawing board, when the school itself struggles just to function.
Michael, let's go.
But ask the community, and that's not what you hear. The symbolic value of a stadium rising from among the ruins is undeniable. It would be a sign that this shattered neighborhood and its people live on.
It would do a lot for the school. It'll bring back hope.
It would be a sign that the community is going to survive.
This stadium, I think, is going to create some pride. It's going to create that old Carver spirit.
Ultimately, the story that it tells the kids is the more important one, which is seeing a story of having been told no thousands of times, literally thousands of times, and then pulling this off, I think, is ultimately the story to really hang the hat on.
This past season, the Carver Rams had a winning record and survived 2 rounds of the city playoffs. Several of their players have received scholarship offers from Division I schools for next fall, just so long as they can meet the academic requirements. That old Carver pride that never really died is in full bloom again. Now imagine how it will feel the first time they run out onto that field of dreams.
We're joined now by our Stephen Brunt, who put that piece together. Fantastic piece, Stephen. It's so nice that we can come down here to cover the Super Bowl, but I think it's really important that you came down a little early to get some real stories from here in New Orleans. What was it like just putting that piece together?
It was a revelation in a lot of ways, Ken. This is a story. It's a complicated story. It's a story that's about a lot more than football, and I wish I could wrap it up with a nice storybook ending here today and tell you everything's going to be fine. They were planning to turn sod for the new stadium this Super Bowl week. That's not going to happen. That's still on the drawing board. So are the plans to rebuild that school. This story gets into the politics of rebuilding that neighborhood and whether it's ever going to be rebuilt, whether politicians and bureaucrats really want those people still there, want that poor community to come back to what it was once upon a time. It has to do with the privatization of the education system here. There are a whole bunch of elements. But football and the symbolic value of that stadium still are central. And I know Brian Bordanik and a lot of people still are hoping, it might be a bit of a faint hope at this point, that stadium is going to rise from that field.
The one clip that stuck with me was one of the people who said, the kids would rather stay here than go home because going home isn't a very nice thing for a lot of them. Were you exposed to, I guess, some things you probably think you wouldn't see in a city like this? In a city, well, this was a poor city before Katrina, and there are parts of the city that were still very poor afterwards, and they took some of the worst of that storm. I think we walked into a situation there where we saw a school that was really struggling to function, and kids whose lives outside of that school, outside of those fences, those locked fences, were really hard to imagine. You don't want to put too much stock into saying sports fixes things, or football fixes things, or stadiums fixes things. But everyone we talked to said that being there and being part of that team, having that chance, was at very least a refuge. It was a place of community identity, a place of safety, a place to go other than going back home. Sometimes stories can stick with people for a while. Is that one going to stick with you for a while? Yeah, I'll tell you, Ken. So those kids, the kids we talked to there, you cheer for teams sometimes. We're all cheering for them. Stephen Brunt, thank you. Thanks, Ken.